One game, one moment can turn a hero into a memory. From the highs of lifting trophies to the lows of public heartbreak, these players had it all until that one game that rewrote their stories. First up is Loris Karius, a guy who had it all going for him. From his early days in Stuttgart's youth setup, he showed promise. At Mainz 05, he wasn't just good, he was exceptional. Game after game, he pulled off saves that left fans and critics alike in awe. His reflexes, his style, his confidence, it all made him stand out. It wasn't long before the big clubs took notice, and in 2016, Liverpool, one of the giants of English football, signed him. And there, he was about to play in the match that every kid dreams of, the Champions League final. May 26, 2018 was the day. Liverpool was facing off against Real Madrid, and the pressure was insane. This wasn't just any game, it was the big one, the night where heroes are made, and for Karius, it was his time to step into the spotlight. But instead of triumph, disaster struck. Twice. First, Karius tried to throw the ball out, not seeing Karim Benzema. The ball hit Benzema's foot and bounced straight into the net. The crowd's roar was a mix of disbelief and horror, but the night wasn't done with Karius yet. Later, Gareth Bale performed what seemed like magic, launching into the air and with an astonishing bicycle kick, sent the ball flying past everyone and into the net. It was a moment of sheer brilliance for Bale, but for Karius, another nail in the coffin. Liverpool lost and everything changed for Loris. The fans, the team, and the media couldn't unsee what happened. The heartbreak in his eyes was evident as he faced the traveling fans, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Liverpool brought in a new star keeper, Alisson Becker, pushing Karius into the shadows. He ended up on loan, his Premier League days fading behind him, and this isn't the only final that ended any player's career. Back in 2014, David Luiz faced the worst, but before that, his journey was nothing short of a fairy tale. With pivotal roles at Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain, he wasn't just playing, he was dominating, helping bag the Champions League, Europa League, and FA Cup, among others. Life was good, career shining, and then came the game that turned everything upside down. Flashback to 2014, the World Cup semi-finals, Brazil versus Germany. It wasn't just any match, this was the match. The whole country was buzzing. Streets were packed with fans draped in yellow and green, faces painted, hearts pounding. This was Brazil's chance to shine on their home turf. But what unfolded that day was nothing short of a nightmare. Right from the get-go, Germany was like a machine. Each move calculated, each strike like a dagger to the heart. And there, caught in the eye of the storm, was David Luiz. He was supposed to be the rock in Brazil's defense, especially with Thiago Silva out. But that day, something was off. He seemed lost, making runs when he should have been guarding, leaving gaps wide enough for the Germans to waltz through. By the time the dust settled, Brazil was left shell-shocked. Staring at a brutal 7-1 loss, the stadium was a sea of tears, and amidst it all, David Luiz's devastated figure stood out. His post-match interview was heart-wrenching. The guy was shattered, apologizing to millions when honestly, it was a collective collapse. That game changed everything. Critics had a field day tearing apart his performance, and it seemed like his past victories were suddenly forgotten. It's harsh how one bad day at work can overshadow years of sweat and grit. But if there's anyone with the most heartbreaking story, it's Douglas Maiken. He was the guy who helped Inter Milan grab every trophy possible in 2010. Fans loved him. He was living the dream, playing for Brazil and owning the field in Italy. Life was good. October 2010 was supposed to be just another game. Inter Milan versus Tottenham, a regular Champions League match. But it turned out to be the turning point of Maiken's life. The first half was a breeze. Inter was leading 4-0. Everyone thought it was over. But then, Gareth Bale of Tottenham decided to put on a show. This guy ran like the wind, making the defenders look like they were standing still. And Maicon, he got the worst of it. Bale scored 3 times, right past Maicon. It was like watching a superstar fade right in front of the world. Inter won 4-3, but that didn't matter. Everyone remembered how Bale ran circles around Maicon. After that game, things were never the same for Maicon. The media was brutal, fans were heartbroken, and Maicon was a shadow of his former self. Every game after that, it felt like he was trying to outrun that night, but it kept catching up to him. His confidence was shaken, and soon, he wasn't the main guy at Inter anymore. He tried to find his old magic with other teams like Manchester City and Roma, but it just wasn't the same. It's crazy how one game, one night can change everything. Maicon's story is a reminder of how fragile success can be. One moment you're on top of the world, and the next you're trying to find your way back. And almost the same thing happened to David Trezeguet. In the start, David Trezeguet was the player everyone wanted on their team. He was a star, the kind of footballer who made scoring look easy. He had this magic touch that helped France grab the Euro 2000 title. At his club, Juventus, he was the man making the crowd go wild, helping them snatch victory after victory, but life has a way of throwing curveballs. The 2006 World Cup final was more than just a game, it was the big one, the match that every kid dreams of playing. France against Italy, everything was intense, right down to the final minutes. The score was tied and the air was thick with tension. Everyone's nerves were shot, and now everything depended on penalties. A nightmare for players because it's anyone's game at that point. Now, here's Trezeguet stepping up to take his shot. The pressure was insane. You could hear the fans' hearts beating all over the world. He takes his shot, and then it happens. The ball hits the crossbar. No goal. The miss hangs in the air, and it feels like everything just stops. That miss, it was the one that decided it all. Italy takes the cup home, and France is left with what if. That moment crushed him. Imagine having the whole country's hopes on your shoulders and it slips away, just like that. The fans, the media, everyone, they didn't let him forget it. Sure, he had been their golden boy, but now he was the guy who missed. After that, things just weren't the same. He played, but that spark was missing. He got less time on the field for France, and they didn't even call him up for the 2010 World Cup. He tried to find his place again, moving from club to club, but that miss followed him everywhere. Iker Casillas, he was the wall that kept Real Madrid safe and made Spain proud. With every save, every trophy, he wasn't just a player, he was a legend. Everyone thought, that's our guy, he's unbeatable. 2014 World Cup Brazil, this was supposed to be Casillas' moment. Spain was the team to beat, and everyone expected them to shine. But football is unpredictable. The match against the Netherlands was a shocker. Spain started strong, but then the Dutch hit back, and it felt like the ground was shaking. Casillas, our hero, messed up twice, big time. The world watched, jaws dropped as the unbeatable team was getting beaten and the unbreakable wall was breaking. It wasn't just a loss, it felt like a betrayal. The next game against Chile, more heartbreak. Spain was out of the World Cup and it felt like a bad dream. The guy everyone trusted was now the guy everyone blamed. After that, things changed. Casillas left Real Madrid, the place he'd been since he was a kid. It was like watching your childhood friend move away. He went to Porto, a new start, but it wasn't the same. Football can be cruel. One bad game, a couple of mistakes, and everything changes. Casillas' story is a reminder of that, but it's also a story of resilience, of moving on, and finding new battles to fight. Because legends, even when they stumble, never really fade away. They just find new ways to shine.